Right, click the links to join the channel here over at subscribe, start buy my copy for the various other links, or the join the Telegram. It's a free speech site, so as long as you're not threatening to delete anyone, people go to Gab and Telegram and they're the free speech sites, and then they're shocked to discover that they're free speech sites. So what happened is an actor you've never heard of virtue signals about the current thing that the puppet masters programmed him to care about. So what happened is this idiot promises to help the BLT community fight monsters. My brother in Christ, Odin, Mars, and probably Allah, you are the monsters. One of your tribe just slaughtered 6 Christians. The toxic left was the monsters the whole time. These 6 Christians were not monsters. The brainwashed, useful idiot was the monster. Were those 3 children, the 3 blonde children, or the 3 adults, the Christians? Were they the monsters that you're going to fight? I think you probably want to just hold up a mirror and you can take care of the monsters. And the question of Christian lives mattering or addressing anti-Christian violence, for some reason, isn't being addressed by the globalist media parasites. Instead, they're focusing on how the BLTs are the real victims after 6 Christians were deleted by a BLT, but the what was it, the press one of the press secretaries posted a meme of a girl with 2 6-shot revolvers saying that me when I see a TERF or a transphobe or something like that. She's holding up 2 Liberty devices, implying that she's going to commit malum and say acts for a thought crime, for someone's state of mind. She's going to commit the act in and of itself of evil. She's going to delete people for a state of mind. She was fired, but still she felt it was okay to post that on Twitter. She was fired, but to be at this point where she posted that, like a clear threat, and she thought that was okay, that's friggin' delusional. Or the Biden's press secretary, 2 days after the shooting, she goes out there and talks about the trans community is now more marginalized and oppressed than ever. But 6 Christians were just deleted by a trans person. It seems odd that you're not addressing the anti-Christian hate. Or Garland being interviewed by Kennedy and asking if he's going to address this as an anti-Christian hate crime, and Garland stonewalls the question. When it clicks, it all clicks, and then the pieces all start to fit. So these people hate you and they want you dead. It's not that deep. They hate Christians and they hate Europeans. You're trying to analyze it through your own logical worldview. That's an exercise in futility. They just hate you. Stop applying your sense of morality to sociopaths. I mean, it really helps if you understand the history of the Bolsheviks over the past 115 years. They make well-fertilized fields out of their own people. And they go, oh, it'll be different this time. It's like, when I say, history repeats, people hear that and it just goes over the head, and you go like, let me rephrase it. What's to stop it from, people know better? Have you been following the narrative in government schools and globalist media narrative? The narrative is not about the evil of Bolshevism. That's not taught in schools. It's the evil of the far right. And you're like, those two things are not even the same universe of each other. It's communism has always been, Bolshevism, the Bolsheviks, have always been the greatest evil, the greatest threat. And it's like, no, we're going to focus on like the Proud Boys. So yeah, of course it'll happen again. Every system is pointing to it happening again, and nobody is stopping it. Anyway, so these people hate you. Stop trying to analyze it because you're not a sociopath, and these people are at the spectrum of sociopathic tendencies, borderline personality disorders. I mean, how many mugshots you need to see of Antifa and BLM to go, oh, these are like, there's clearly an issue of chemical dependency and mental illness with this group. It's like, if they have to get rid of 100 million records of progress, well, they've done it before. They're going to do it again unless somebody steps up and stops them. Thing is, they're also gaslighting the entire narrative to push stochastic terrorism against Christians and European people. The BLT community is not being attacked by Christians or European people, not at all. Do they experience disproportionate issues with conflict and malum and say events? Yes, of course. But it's not us attacking them. Statistically, we're not involved actually at all. And when there are issues, it's going to be the opposite of what the media narrative says it is. But the media will lie to us because that's what the media and government do. They lie to distract the cattle. The issue doesn't involve us at all. What happens is that many of them are, unfortunately, involved in narcotics and the adult industry. That's a recipe for a very short lifespan, but it has nothing to do with Christians or someone using slurs on Twitter. They're attacked either by their own community or by the Johns. Cold, hard, brutal reality. Oh, it's good to know that you'll fight the monsters. So those 3 blonde Christian children, who are the monsters for the BLT community, Greg? Was it the 6 Christians that the BLT girl just slaughtered? Who are the monsters? So the solution to all this would be simply to have a public relations campaign to try to get them clean and sober and out of the adult industry. That's it is an impossible task today. We've gone too far. That ship has sailed. The last point of a good working configuration was a long time ago. The rot of cultural Bolshevism is too deep. If we say, hey, let's get you into a 12-step program, and set up some factories for jobs to make, a lot of the stuff that's made in China, you go, oh, we should, instead of exporting this stuff to China, Mexico, Japan, Korea, around the world, the Philippines, that stuff should all be made in America, because then you have people working in those factories, and like those are good stable, that stabilizes a society. Instead of buying foreign made goods, you would save the country, you would save these individuals, you would save the society. And you go, oh, that seems so obvious. Why did it, the neocons from Reagan to Bush to Clinton to Bush 2 and on up, you go, why are they exporting jobs overseas? That just destroys a nation. You look at it, you're like, yeah, that does. And then what's the follow-up? It's like, no, there's no follow-up. The goal all along, Clinton got the ball rolling, but don't get me wrong. Like, if you think Republicans are any better, they're not. They're all on the same page. They're just a little slower. That's the goal. It's like, oh, we'll export jobs to Mexico, overseas, China, South Korea, the Philippines, Southeast Asia. And you go, so those jobs or those people would be in American factories making that stuff. So now those are gone. Yes, that's right. Okay, and then the next step is, well, we destroy the country. And this is all just happening, and nobody is raising their hand to stop all this kind of stuff. So here's another example is the past couple years with the health issue. Well, one of the issues that was a catalyst to the health issue that was tied in very closely was obesity, because it's a cardiopulmonary issue, and obesity is tied into that very, very closely. And you go, and keep in mind, Trump was in office under this. You go, so why didn't at the federal level somebody step up and say, hey, America, we're going to have a national campaign to eat less and start a little exercise, start a little walk-in program. It's going to America eat less and walk, because one of the issues is obesity is tied into this. And you're like, yeah, why didn't someone at the federal level or any of the 50 state level, why didn't someone step up and make hey, California, we're going to all eat less and lose the fat? None that didn't happen in any state or at the federal level at all. And it's two things. Two things I can think of off my head is the istophobic stuff. Like, oh, you're shaming these people? That's like toxic behavior. Health, saving people's lives is now toxic behavior. They would rather have the health issues than be shamed for being obese. And the other issue is I think the restaurant industry, the high fructose corn syrup industry, would start assassinating people if you did that. So you look at a country like that, America, or even all the 50 states, and you go, so they can't even do a health program like Reagan tried to do in the 80s. You can't even do that nowadays. Like, what was that show, Super Size Me? Like, that guy wouldn't even be able to make that movie anymore because it would be shaming people who want to eat themselves to an early grave. Like, so the country can't even do a program to tell people to simply eat less anymore in current year. Or when the whole Wu flu thing started in 2020. There was no push like, oh, the comorbidity is obesity. Okay, so we know that. Is anyone going to talk about it? Nope. Oh, so you're saying like the country's just that effed. Yeah. So I mean, if you can't even do something like that, you realize, oh, we're much, things are much worse than I think people are aware of if you don't want to be aware of it. Anyway, so the puppet masters don't want you to save anything or anyone. They're trying to destroy the system. That's why we can't do these simple things like, oh, hey, the cities are overrun with crime and looting. You know, if you put people in jail for a long time, they wouldn't be out to loot. Oh, yeah, we're not going to do that. Okay, you know, some Chinese woman was just paralyzed in Chinatown the other day by a mugger. Yeah. And he was out on bail for multiple long history of crime. So actually, if you put him in jail for like 40 years for armed robbery, he wouldn't be out. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Oh, okay. So you get what I'm saying. It's like things are much, much further along than people seem to think they are. Anyway, the puppet masters don't want you to save anything. They're trying to destroy the system. That's why I keep saying there is no political solution. When the system makes peaceful redress of grievances impossible, I think, the rest of that, you just vote harder and trust the plan extra hard this time. People have obesity-related health issues nonstop in America. People have never been fatter, but nobody in the government media is trying to do a public awareness campaign because it's histophobic. What does histophobic mean? Or, all those euphemisms for the words you're not supposed to say on YouTube. I've said a few hot words already. It doesn't mean anything. All those words and terms are just cultural Bolshevik manipulation terms used to control people who don't want to think. None of it is real. This is just the minor issue of obesity, which is so easy to fix. You literally just eat less. It couldn't be easier. In fact, you'll save money just by eating less. Except as a nation, we can't even deal with obesity as a health issue. That's like the easiest thing to take care of, and we can't even address the, no pun intended, elephant in the room. So how are you expected to deal with something like mental illness? You can't. There is no political solution to this. I've never been an anti-government tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. I've started to pay attention. I mean, this is a journey. Like the rabbit hole is a journey into mental illness. Oh, okay, now it's okay to shameless for mental illness. I mean, you can hear me. I'm not crazy. Tell me if you see things differently. We just had an anti-Christian attack. Where is the corporate world standing with the Christian victims? Oh, that's like a black hole online. If it was any other group, would they be standing with them? Of course they would, because they all have that rainbow flag when they're standing with the... So what about a little Christian sign or crucifix or something to stand with the Christian? No, we're not going to do that. Yeah, that's where we are now. They're standing against future anti-BLT attacks after 6 Christians were just slaughtered by a BLT person. If you haven't been paying attention to the culture war, I don't think people know how serious all this is. We don't control our government. Big tech, banks, and payment processors do. And our representatives are not doing anything. Please, by all means, tell me how we vote our way out of this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It literally doesn't matter who's in office at any, though you have to be very careful on YouTube. So Odyssey, Bit Chute, Daydreamer, probably better places. There are hidden hands that are able to pull strings. The shadow government that can delete Epstein and then delete his French partner in the exact same way. Well, if those people can go over the heads of the government, then they are the de facto government. They are your hidden puppet masters who must not be named because they're doing things above and beyond what the government is doing. They are our masters. They control the West. They can bypass the government anytime they want. And it's not calling them our masters to accept them. It's so we can get rid of them. I mean, not like you look at our representatives. Oh, well, that surely they'll step up and pass a bill or something. They would have already, if things would not have got to this point where we are if it was going to be fixed by the system. So people are so brainwashed today that the Rage Against the Machine Twitter liberals were working with the FBI to turn in fellow Americans, and they still think that they're the rebellious Rage Against the Machine types. They've been so brainwashed by the media to think that the orange Cheeto is Satan. Your government and media, once you departed from this mortal coil, perhaps you've been paying attention over the past few years, you've noticed the hatred. The Nick Sandman thing, that should have been a wake-up call. The blue check marks wanted violence against him because he was a silent Christian and of fair skin. That really is how simple it is. So in this little example, after 6 Christians were slaughtered, this guy is virtue signaling for the group from which the attacker came, and he's lashing out against J.K. Rowling for some reason. What exactly did J.K. do? She said that men aren't women, and that men and women need separate spaces, or people need their separate spaces, which is kind of the broad concept between nationalism and globalism. Nationalists say we draw a circle around us. This is us. You're not on us. You're the other side of the circle. Globalist says no. We need to force our way in there. And nationalists say no. We need to have separate spaces for identity groups. However you choose to identify, and however you choose what group you choose to coalesce around, that's okay. And the globalists can't have that, and that idea terrifies them. So none of this makes sense until you realize that they're just disturbed, violent, mentally ill people. If you disagree with the words they say, they feel that they can do violence against you. You can't fix this by voting for a new candidate or a new law. That's impossible. The ship sailed a long, long time ago. It's like trying to legislate morality. You see how that works in other countries around the world. Not at all is how it works. It took decades of cultural Bolshevik brainwashing in the schools and media. There's no saving this. And no, the system is not going to save the system. The system got us here, and it's not controlled by the people. At this point, the only solution would be separation. And if these people wish to live as they wish, then okay, abolish the Federal Reserve, abolish almost all of the federal government, at least defund it, and it will abolish itself, go back to a hard 50-state model, but this time with borders, hardline borders. And you have to figure out a commerce clause for sure, but in terms of residency and how the state wants to deal with its residents, then you need a hard borderline for that. Oh, countries don't last forever. And America as a whole is going in this direction. It's like, the things they're doing are not in accord with a stable society. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next episode.